This is Sybert signing into Kane's Wrath with Nextonline as the green knot on the top side of Tournament Dustbowl versus KiMOsaBE, or Downtown Dustbowl if this was the 4-player map, versus KiMOsaBE as the Psy and Zocom on the south side. So it is going to be Nextonline, who I hear is an older player who is back at least for this game. And other than that, I don't know a whole lot about them, but I'm going to assume that that is true. And it looks like actually no spikes are in the future for KiMOsaBE, at least for the next minute or so. It looks like he's going to be going for Refinery before that Barracks, which I can totally understand if this was on the 4-player version, since there are no Tiberium spikes. KiMOsaBE, if he's really good, he is going to be digging in, which will allow the engineer to just grab the spike from the other side, but he will get a couple of kills on the militia. Not a big deal, but he's also going to be garrisoning up the... No, he's not going to be garrisoning up the right side, at least not just yet. May decide to go ahead and hop into a building. Looks like we're going to be having the War Factory follow-up for both of these players, and then the Barracks for KiMOsaBE as he goes to secure that spike. And of course, you want to make sure that you secure at least one of those spikes, or otherwise, Nextonline will just be too far ahead with those 20 credits a second. If he's allowed to hold them for way too long, then that can end up making a difference in a game. Most of the time it won't. It's just nice to constantly have that money. 2 Harvesters are out for Nextonline, 2 Harvesters for KiMOsaBE. Of course, since he is playing Zocom, he basically can't get Predator tanks because they are bugged and they give out way too much veterancy, but then also, his Harvesters are just a little bit safer simply because they do have those rockets. And rockets, normally not a big deal, but they're kind of a big deal facing Nod, because bikes are going to be very good at harassing, but they also can't take too many hits. So if you have, say, 2 or 3 Harvesters out here, then a single volley will allow them to go ahead and take down a bike or 2. I'm not exactly sure what the ratios are, but it should be pretty close to about 3 shots to a bike, maybe 4. The only thing is that when they are docking, you cannot do that. Relatively early expansions by both of these players, not super early by any means, as they're both going to be dropping down that second refinery before the expand. And it looks like we're up to that 4 and 2. A 5th Harvester should be added on, as Nextonline already has his 5th, going for dual War Factory, most likely bike and buggy to start out with. Maybe we'll transition into those Scorpion tanks in a minute. KiMOsaBE wants to make sure that he gets his expansion online very quickly, considering he has at least somewhat delayed the expansion for his opponent. A couple of bikes are now out, and these will begin to be sent out. Of course, the buggy, it's always good to get a buggy first when you're going for one of these eco builds, just for the scout, because as much as some people think that scouting information isn't important, it certainly is. The buggy saves you $100, plus it can tank more damage from those annoying pitbulls. And you always want to keep an eye on a player like KiMOsaBE because he could be doing something crazy. The MCV will be able to escape without taking too much damage from that Rifleman squad, as Rifleman squads can do a surprising amount of damage to a packed up MCV. And here come the bikes. A total of, well, now not quite the total of 6 as there was before. There was only going to be 5, but a couple of buggies are here as well. Pitbulls will be taken down relatively quickly, although KiMOsaBE is doing a pretty good job of making sure that he's shooting down the bikes. A couple of pitbulls will be able to hold off those bikes, and an extra pitbull going to be just running around this base, seeing exactly what is going on for Nextonline. KiMOsaBE needs to make sure that he keeps an eye on everything that he is doing. 2 refineries over here, but only 1 Harvester, as the other one must have been sniped. And yeah, the Pitbull is going to be seeing that 5 and 2 ratio, going to be likely be spotting the expansion and the single Harvester over there. Getting a couple of Rocket Troopers is pretty much always a good idea, especially versus Bike Buggy, where those Rocket Troopers can do a tremendous amount of damage unless your opponent really does focus them down with the bikes, which some players will not. They'll instead be trying to take down the Pitbulls, and they'll just group everything together, and then the buggies won't be controlled individually. Individual Rifleman squad's going to be sent out possibly to establish some foxholes up at this northern field. Not too crazy of openers from either one of these players, but this bike buggy swarm is getting to the point of where it is pretty darn scary. A couple of extra bikes could be grouped in for the attack run, but we do have, KiMOsaBE letting his rocket troopers take a bit of extra damage, which every rocket that gets fired you really do want to keep. You don't want to let any of them fall by the wayside or let your units stand in Tiberium to the point of where one of your rocket troopers is suddenly dead. Bike Buggy going to be pulled back. Nextonline doesn't want to engage just yet, establishing that operation center, and most likely going to be going for that dozer blades. If he was getting the turret upgrade, that would just be quite bizarre. But we do have mass pitbull out of KiMOsaBE. He's like, well, you know what? I'm not going to get predator tanks. Instead, I'm simply going to get 1,000,000 pitbulls. Which, I mean, also with the... Oh, wait a second. He already has the Tiberium field suits. So I don't remember if that makes them take reduced damage from Tiberium or no damage, decreases damage. So they do still take some damage from Tiberium, but they do not take nearly as much. And of course, that is the Zocom way. They're all about clearing out that Tiberium. Pitbull's not deciding to give chase. They could maybe swing in here and do some damage. It would be hard because once the Scorpion tanks swoop in to save the engaging, or save the bikes from the engaging pitbulls, it would be quite difficult. Rocket Troopers going to be forming up in a line, and it does look like the Predator tanks will be just given away. As you can see, the Rocket Troopers actually, no, they're not going to be crushed. The Scorpion tanks are going to be pulling back as the pitbulls do engage here. The angle isn't great for either one of these players, but Nextonline is going to be pulling back, and KiMOsaBE is not interested in really giving chase. He will snag an extra kill there as a bike does go down in the back of KiMOsaBE's base. He's going to be taking some damage, although mostly the buggies will be held off by the Rocket Troopers and the Pitbulls, as suddenly everyone in the city commits a crime and the police force is out in a mass. I'm not sure if you can actually hear the sirens. They are quite loud, but hopefully that isn't too distracting. More Scorpions are on the field, but also going to be going likely for that laser capacitor upgrade, possibly following it up with Tiberium core. Just makes the bikes that much more relevant in the late game. You take a very cheap early game unit, you add Tib core, and suddenly it's a pretty solid late game unit, both for harassing and dealing with any of those Zocom Orgas, which may or may not be popping out on the field for KiMOsaBE. Mass Scorpion tank could be dealt with by the Orcas, although they would have to be pretty much holding still, as the third base is now established for Nextonline. The first harvester is already getting in some loads of Tiberium for KiMOsaBE, and one buggy will get taken out. Not too big of a deal. The buggies being gathered over here, do they have EMP coils? No, they do not, but they do have laser capacitors, but there are still way too many Rocket Troopers here, as that is just a couple of rocket and riflemen over on the left side. The buggy's going to be getting taken out by these Rocket Troopers. However, they will be able to take down a couple of these Rocket Troopers. Splash damage going to be allowing those buggies to get taken out even more quickly. Oh, not good splitting of the rockets there. With that many rockets, they could have been split a little bit better by KiMOsaBE, and he could have eliminated both of those both of the buggies a little bit quicker. He's also not doing any damage with these missile squads. He needs to either pull them back so they don't get sniped by a shredder turret, or start taking down that refinery, although they may end up just getting taken out by the militant squad. No, they are going to be pulling back, possibly garrisoning up a structure, and so many infantry are being produced for KiMOsaBE. He's completely abandoned his main base, which means that once this Tiberium field starts regrowing, he is going to want to make sure that he's constantly harvesting that away. Nextonline still rocking with this dual war factory, pumping out so many Scorpion tanks. A small line of missile troopers are on the right side. However, they might actually... no, they're definitely going to be spotting this force now. Laser capacitor will allow these Scorpion tanks to deal with the Rocket Troopers a little bit easier, but Nextonline isn't actually doing a great job of crushing, although he doesn't necessarily need to, because he just moves over them, or actually just move commands over them, and that's a huge wall of Scorpion tanks will kill them eventually. KiMOsaBE, can he do it? He's got the mass Rocket Trooper, which is going to be very, very powerful, but can he actually make it work? In the end, Confessor upgrade has been purchased, and going to be sending in the decoys to absorb the first couple of shots, and it is going to be possibly rocket hammerheads. No, there are rifleman squads inside of some of these hammerheads, just allowing them to do a little bit more damage. One harvester is going to be pulled off the line. The hammerheads are heading way into enemy territory. This could be a mistake. A couple of them could get taken out by the buggies. No, there aren't enough buggies here to actually do the damage that he needs. A rocket squad contingency did get caught behind enemy lines, and suddenly these hammerheads are doing way too much damage to this Scorpion tank force. They will be able to eliminate those turrets. But no, fortunately for KiMOsaBE, Tiberium core missiles is not finished. In fact, it's not even begun. With that many hammerheads, you'd think Nextonline would be thinking, maybe I should go ahead and get me some Tib core missiles, and they just take out buildings so fast. There's so many machine gun bullets actually flying out from those hammerheads on account of there being an extra couple of those rifleman squads in there. A small force is going to be moving out on the left side. Oh, and actually good use of those confessor grenades there. They're actually impacting their targets. And one of these war factories, which just stood for the majority of this game, may actually be getting taken out. A buggy going to be sacrificing itself. Not sure what the purpose of just sending them in there. There's way too many rocket squads for them to efficiently trade with the rocket squads. They'll just get eaten up a bit too quickly. Splitting up the rocket troopers will allow them to survive a little bit longer, but they cannot fire while moving, which means that they will ultimately just get crushed. A couple of Scorpion tanks being caught out in the open. Nextonline leaving them for dead. And another one will get sniped down there, and these hammerheads are getting dangerously close to being taken out. One does go down, a second one gets smashed as well. Two more going to be joining the fray. Where is the airfield? They desperately need to be getting repairs, and there actually is no airfield. It was already sold off. KiMOsaBE going to be pulling back his infantry forces and going for this field over here. Venoms are now out, which he already has the laser capacitor upgrade, which will be absolutely great in dealing with those hammerheads, which some of the hammerheads have been eliminated. Only 5 of them left, and they're all in the yellow or red. Although going for those Tiberium core power plants is a great move as well. Going to be able to snipe down the Tib core power plants very, very easily, and could even go for the operations center, which will deny any further SAM turrets, or maybe even snipe down the tech lab, although that would be very dangerous, as Bike is going to be actually getting in on the action, absorbing some shots from the rockets. Not a big deal since there's no Venoms there doing damage. Garrisoning up the buildings, and the single lone rocket trooper is going to be doing a fair amount of damage, as there goes that tech lab. But the mine drop does happen right on top of these infantry, just as the Venom show up at the last second to clear out the majority of these hammerheads, or nearly. Most of the rocket troopers do go down, and the last Venom, or the last hammerhead rather, will fall to the Venoms. A couple of Venoms will be sniped down before the rest of these rocket troopers are cleaned up. Another scan does go down by KiMOsaBE, but there aren't any mines left, I don't think. Nobody is now safe to move away from them. Only 4 Venoms do remain. Not the most efficient trading by Nextonline, and that Harvester being the unsung hero of that Scorpion tank, as he did save the Scorpion tank. The Marv is out. Do we have a Redeemer to match? At least the Redeemer engineering facility is on the field. I don't recall hearing the Redeemer, but it's very possible that it did happen during one of the more exciting bits. A rig as well is packed up and ready to roll. And that is actually going to be 4 zone troopers, I believe, or zone raiders rather, inside of that Marv, or for whatever reason he decided to throw some grenadiers in there, which would be quite unusual indeed. I'm actually trying to remember what the actual grenadier little squad looks like, but if he didn't put zone troopers in there, that would be quite silly. However, Venom's going to be cleaning up small groups of missile squads all over the field, and then they can go for the Harvesters. It will take them a while to take them down, but it could actually be worth it if they're able to catch the Harvesters while they're docking, because they do not fire missiles at that point. The Marv going to be moving out. The Zone Raiders going to be very effective in dealing with both infantry and buildings, but everything gets sold off. Nextonline doesn't want to keep the extra buildings around to buy himself some more time, as the Redeemer does pop out. The Venoms have been recalled. They need to make sure that they are getting repairs, as there is likely that Tiberium core upgrade, although it may be EMP coils for the buggies, which I'm not sure if there are actually any buggies on the field. There's one produced right there, as it is going to be that, yep, EMP coils are now finished, which will allow this Marv to go down ever so quickly. Another rig is on the field as well, so KiMOsaBE really wants to stick around with this rig. 2 Scorpion tanks were sniped there. Needs to make sure that he takes down the operations center, at least forcing the rebuild of that ops center, and it'll deny those SAM turrets for another 30 seconds or so. At least deny them from being built. It looks like he is going to be hunting down the operations center. It does get sold off, which means Nextonline is most likely going to be rebuilding it, because he knows that he indeed does need it. 6 6 Hammerheads are on the field, but are they garrisoned with anything? A Rocket Trooper and a couple of Zone Heads, as well as a couple of Zone Raiders, rather, are in their power plants being sold off, as the Scorpion tanks are going to be swinging around to the backside of KiMOsaBE's base. There are a couple of Harvesters here to get taken out, but the Zone Troopers will help these Hammerheads make short work of those Scorpion tanks. The rig's taking a little bit of damage, but that's an APC, not an APC engineer, so nothing too wonky to worry about. However, fortunately for KiMOsaBE, he does have a couple of extra zone. He does have the Zone Raiders in there, which means that their rocket packs can fire off and do extra damage to those Venoms. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to deal with the Venoms with just the Hammerheads. However, dropping down the AA turret right below that airfield so that he can receive constant repairs. The Redeemer is going to be taking a lot of damage. There's no backup. Where are the buggies? They're not going to be heading in here for the EMPs, as there are 3 rigs here to provide constant support. The APC will go down. However, the Rocket Troopers are the damage dealers that Nextonline needs to worry about, and it will come down to positioning, but also some pretty solid Spectre fire, as the rigs will not quite be taken out just yet. A couple of more volleys will take them down. The first EMP does go off. The EMP Raider buggies are going to be swarming in here. The splash damage taking down one of them. They do not affect infantry or Hammerheads for that matter, as the Hammerheads can keep these EMP buggies down pretty well. The Marv taking rear armor damage, and the Venom's going to be swooping in here to take out the Hammerheads, but also to deal with the rifle, to deal with the militant or the rocket squads. The Marv does pull back, however, the Rage Gun does fire off. Was it actually able to affect anything? There goes the Redeemer. No, it doesn't actually go down. It's being barely healed by that Engineer, and the Venoms take down all of the Hammerheads before they're actually able to eliminate the Redeemer, and there goes the rig as the Spectres clean up the remaining forces, and suddenly that impressive attack force for KiMOsaBE is not nearly as impressive, but oh, the stacking is too tremendous. It takes out all of the Venoms. They can hardly even be accounted for KiMOsaBE, but Nextonline didn't split his Venoms, and that very same thing has happened to me, and I think most of us can relate to that Venom stack so easily, and KiMOsaBE was there at just the right time with those pitbulls to totally smash those Venoms. That's a big hit for Nextonline. That was a huge, that was actually his entire Air Force, I do believe, which means with no more Air Force, any more Rocket Troopers will not be as easily dealt with, and that's just less damage output for Nextonline's army. Do we have, no, we don't have the mortar upgrade just yet, and there's the Orca Strike. However, it won't be finished off. The Pitbulls were not affected. No, they were affected. A couple of them will go down. A pretty solid Rage Gen. One more volley. No, just in time there. The Rage Gen did wear off. A couple of more Hammerheads are out on the field. However, they're not garrisoned with anything. They still will allow these Scorpion tanks to go down quite quickly. And the beacon's being thrown down by KiMOsaBE. He is saying, hey, dummies, get back to work, you harvesters. Quit glitching out, but no stealth tanks. They could run over these infantry, or they could get smashed by the infantry. The Hammerheads may very well be cleaned up by the stealth tanks, as there is no airfield for those repairs. He needs to make sure that he throws the rifleman squads inside of the Hammerheads for that extra damage output. And where are the stealth tanks? Actually, they could be sniping down a couple of harvesters. While on the north side, it is simply that Black Hand squad from the Operations Center that was sold off a couple of minutes ago, which has since been rebuilt. Neither KiMOsaBE nor Nextonline really has very much Tiberium. KiMOsaBE needs to go ahead and see if he can secure this position he is in. He is closer to being able to secure that little bit of Tiberium. He is closer than Nextonline is to being able to secure it. This field being long distance harvested by Nextonline. But Tiberium core missiles are now done. Stealth tank's going to be able to snipe down a power plant. May as well stick around and snipe down the other power plant, as a Rage Gen does go off right there. Did it actually affect anything? Yeah, one APC will go down. A rig will take some damage as well. Yeah, that rig will take a little bit of damage. The Rage Gen going to be very unfortunate for KiMOsaBE, but there are no EMP Raider buggies. There are a couple of them down here in the south. However, right there, the Tiberium chemical plant does go down. Will we be seeing any use of support powers? At this point, it seems like support powers wouldn't necessarily be the best idea just because of how much they do cost. and I think he just re-stealthed that Redeemer. Obelisk will be getting caught out since there are no SAM turrets here, but the SAM turrets can be focused down very, very quickly by those. Oh, didn't quite get that last SAM turret, which means he can swoop in there and take it out. The SAM turrets focused down relatively quickly by the Hammerheads, especially with the AP ammo. They just do so much damage. 6 Hammerheads are on the field. KiMOsaBE does have 2 refineries up here, really needs to sell off one of those, get himself 500 cash back for it, and make sure that he's got 1 harvester on each of these fields. While he did lose quite a few harvesters to those stealth tanks, he will be able to take out a couple of the stealth tanks, will lose 3 pitbulls for it, but ultimately the stealth tanks, I think they will be able to escape. Although the pitbulls may actually cut them off. We'll have to see if the angle is going to be good enough. KiMOsaBE is tracking the pitbulls tracking the stealth tanks pretty darn well. And the Hammerheads show up at just the right time, right as the stealth tanks finish off their rockets. They take down 2 pitbulls, but they get eliminated themselves. KiMOsaBE desperately needs to harvest some of this Tiberium, even with just these two little fields alone. That's a couple thousand credits worth of Tiberium, which may be an extra little, which may be advanced turbines as they do finish right there, or an extra power plant. Whatever he does need, the rig should be repaired up as well, because it will be allowing that Marv to stay alive. Spectres will be actually firing on that foxhole, which isn't actually doing a whole lot, but an extra SAM turret will be deployed, which means, oh, so close to taking out 2 of those Hammerheads, but Nextonline simply does not have enough to take them all down. The refinery taking a bit of damage. Those Zocom Orcas doing quite a bit of damage. The secret shrine could have been eliminated. I don't think it's being put to all that great of use anyways by Nextonline, but he wants to keep it alive anyways. And are these rocket troopers going to be loaded up into the Hammerheads? No, because it looks like all of them are already garrisoned with that one. Oh, lame harvester getting sent to its death. And 1 extra harvester being hidden in the corner of the field, but the Hammerheads are completely full of infantry, which, I mean, imagine combining Twin Blades from Red Alert 3 with Hammerheads, where you could put 5 infantry squads inside, and they could fire out. Wouldn't that be awesome? Once when playing the campaign of either Kane's Wrath or Tiberium Wars, I was able to fit multiple squads inside of an APC. I don't know how it actually happened, but I could put multiple squads inside of an APC. And then another time I could actually put multiple, I put 8 squads inside of a Marv. I was playing GDI, and so I had like 4 zone troopers and then 4 more other things, and all of the turrets did work. It was quite awesome, but then it didn't happen the next time, and of course that doesn't happen in multiplayer, which is kind of lame, but totally understandable, as that would make Marvs just so underpowered. Marvs with 8 garrison spots would be completely underpowered, and no, that is completely silly. They would be massively overpowered, much like this wonderful ion cannon control. KiMOsaBE's like, well, I can't really necessarily break you in a straight-up engagement, so what if I just ion cannon your base, and then I end up breaking you with my follow-up attack? But it is going to be completely up to Nextonline to not let that happen over the course of the next 6 minutes. He has to actually just take down that ion cannon control. We'll have to see, does he have what it takes? As was a power plant sniped? Very possibly, but I think more of that KiMOsaBE just accidentally placed 1 too many structures, as the power plant does go down right there. And, oh, the stealth tanks could either get off some free shots or get taken out with no questions asked. It looks like neither one of those things will actually happen. Oh, the buggy could actually catch out these Hammerheads. They will be able to do a little bit of damage. And, oh, no, the pitbulls will keep the... Oh, the pitbull's actually going to be getting a little bit of a catch there, as they do get some kills on the buggy, but I do not think it'll be enough. And the Hammerhead's coming in at the last second. Is it actually going to be worth it? 1 Hammerhead does go down, trading it for a couple of bikes there. Not sure if that was necessarily worth it. A couple of more buggies may go down as well, as they draw lines in the sands of Dustbowl. However, a couple of more buggies getting taken out. The lasers are going to be good enough in combination with those Tiberium rockets. Another Hammerhead does go down. 3 in total since this engagement, I do believe. However, the stacking is pretty good. It's not good enough for KiMOsaBE to really level Nextonline. And Nextonline has to do something in the next 5 minutes, but how exactly does he take down KiMOsaBE when KiMOsaBE has got quite a bit of stuff and quite a variety of stuff as well? He just needs to keep picking him apart, and getting free harvester kills would be another great way. Although, no, it looks like the bike buggy will be pulling away, and KiMOsaBE has yet to actually harvest this field. He could simply just marvest it, just run his Marv over there, and then just sweep up all of that extra glorious, wonderful Tiberium. Nextonline, on the other hand, does have a pretty solid, compact base. Going to be calling in, oh goodness, that is exactly what he did need that Tiberium chemical plant for. Sells it off for an extra 1,500 credits. That seed Tiberium is so good. He got a pretty darn good hit there, as that will bring him an additional at least 5,600, maybe 70 or 7,000, I should say. 7,000 to 10,000 Tiberium will be brought to him. KiMOsaBE almost reading my mind and going to be harvesting with that Marv. It's not technically as efficient as harvesting with a regular harvester, but maybe Nextonline will finally realize that he does have a regular harvester sitting up in that corner, giving him constant vision of the area, although this pitbull will accidentally spot it. And now KiMOsaBE will know that it's there, but also Nextonline will probably know that it's there as well. And Zone Shatterer going to be sent out with a little bit of infantry support, a rifleman squad, rocket squads, and also that Zone Raider. However, the Marv is going to be able to do massive damage, despite the fact that its rear armor is facing this Redeemer. There is almost no way for this Redeemer to be saved. There's nothing on the field to save it from these Hammerheads. No bikes are going to be showing up to rescue it. Instead, the Redeemer is simply going to be rushing away as it cloaks right there at the last second. Unfortunately, the Pitbull has already left the area or been taken out by the Redeemer, one or the other. The bikes are now going to be swarming. Oh, they're trying to swarm these Hammerheads at least. Will they actually be able to do it? One Hammerhead does go down. However, the Pitbulls are going to be showing up at the last second. They're going to be getting chased off by the buggy, which the bikes could swing in here. Rather, the buggies could swing in here and do some massive EMP damage. Will it actually be enough? The Marv takes out that Redeemer, gets the snipe on it. At the last second, the Rage Gen not being as effective as Nextonline would have liked it to be. And goodness, that APC saving that refinery from being taken out, the watchtower being thrown down as well to deal with that Black Hand squad. The Redeemer has been taken out. 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go on the ion control. And the bike buggy, I almost thought that they were going to be going on a suicide mission to take down the ion control, which would just about be worth it for Nextonline. The Pitbull will be able to do a little bit of damage. Good control by KiMOsaBE. It wasn't actually enough there, as he wasn't able to save that. He wasn't able to actually save the Pitbull. However, bike buggy going to be turning around. We need to see some great EMPs in the next minute or so. However, the Hammerhead's looming ever as a threat. Although, once the EMPs go off, if they're timed perfectly with the Spectres will be able to deal tremendous damage to the Marv, which is already a veteran rank. The splash damage slowly working away at the Marv, and a couple of rifleman squads will be getting taken out here. The Hammerhead's trying to find a good angle to engage, but it simply will not be good enough, and the Marv taking a little bit more damage as that Orca strike did miss almost completely. A couple of Pitbulls going to be reforming in the middle of the map. And on the south side, we do have more bike buggy swarming out from Nextonline. And constant action over the last half of this game. The Marv actually going to be possibly pulling back to this field. That Harvester is still sitting up there. Wasn't taken out by the Pitbull, much unlike that Harvester, where that Harvester got sniped down by that bike buggy. But there are enough Pitbulls here to rush forward and take them out. They're going to be taking some losses of their own, which is quite unfortunate for KiMOsaBE. An extra Harvester could be put to work. However, where are the buggies? Where are the buggies to help with these bikes? The thing about bike buggy is that it only works if you have buggies there with your bikes. 49 seconds on the ion cannon as the Hammerheads say, you know what, screw the Marv, we're going on our own attack run to kill off these Spectres, even if it takes our very lives. The Redeemer is out there at the very last second. Are there any buggies left, or is the fire sale simply going to be the end of Nextonline? KiMOsaBE does have a does have an elite Marv. The first EMP is going to be coming in. Will it get off? Yes, it indeed will. Locks down the Marv. Will the Redeemer be able to do enough damage? The Zone Troopers are going to be swinging in with the Zone Shatterer. They're focusing on base defenses and not focusing on the Marv, which is what they would like to be doing. However, the Raider Buggy going to be locking down the Marv again. Hammerhead's showing up at the last second just to make sure that that Raider Buggy does go down. They need to snipe down this one before it gets another EMP off. Locking down the rig would be even better, as now the Marv can receive those repairs. A second Marv does get called in. There's the Ion Cannon strike and a spectacular finish to this game. I think KiMOsaBE will be able to take it. The MCB does still stand. KiMOsaBE needs to rush in there and smite down the rest of these buildings. There's literally only a power plant left. That's it! Harvester for sale, aka Nextonline, has been defeated. And man, if KiMOsaBE would have lost that last pocket of forces, that would have been it. He would have been taken out by Nextonline, because Nextonline would have the Redeemer in the last few units and likely would have been able to take down KiMOsaBE in a 30-minute match. And let's take a quick look at the resource. Surprisingly, even KiMOsaBE able to bring it out ahead in the end, and we even got to see an Ion Cannon strike. What is he, John W.E.? I don't think so, as I think John W.E. did leave in America. KiMOsaBE is Australian because he's awesome like that, able to take a game off of Harvester Online. And Harvester for Sale Nextonline, kind of a more macro-oriented game. So if you want to know how to play a long game, go ahead and watch that replay, which that will do it for me. And real quick, it looks like fairly even unit kill-to-death ratios. KiMOsaBE coming out ahead despite the fact that he was so heavily invested in those infantry for the majority of the game. And overall, 221,000 resources gathered for KiMOsaBE. But that will do it for this game. This is Sybert, signing out.